All right, so welcome to the Shortcut Copywriting System. Thanks so much for checking this out. So here's what we got planned out. So over the next 60 minutes, what I want to do in this video is show you my process from A to Z on how to write sales copy that works, how to write sales copy that's going to convert, how to write sales copy that's going to get the job done. So this is really something I've never seen ever put together sort of in one place like this. It's kind of weird. I'm not a copywriter anymore, so I'm willing to kind of, let you guys behind the scenes on what do the professionals do? What do the top paid copywriters in the world do? How does their process look? What is the secrets and all that? And my goal in this session is just to be really transparent and show you what it takes to actually produce copy that works, copy that converts. So, and again, just a little preface before we get into it. This is really coming from, I'm going to try to condense basically 5 years or 6 years now of working as a professional copywriter, writing lots of copy. This is 20 or 30 of the top books on copywriting, the classics, the ones like Claude Hopkins, Scientific Advertising, John Caples, Breakthrough Advertising, 10 or so of the top courses that cost a lot of money. This is also flying across the country, getting help, also mentoring with some of the best copywriters in the world. I've had a chance to mentor under Dan Gallipo, who he mentored under Gary Halbert. Also working not only in the information space, but also for corporate companies like Force Factor. So this is a lot, and I'm going to try to take you through this as quick as we can. So I just wanted to kind of pre-frame that to you. Also coming in as a hired gun and working with seven-figure earners and really being the guy to come in and help them out with their sales copy. So there's a lot that went into this, and I'm going to get into it because I want to get this done quick for you and get everything out. So again, you might want to watch this multiple times because there's a lot in this, and this is the entire process. So I'm not holding anything back. So here is, let me just zoom out really quick. Basically, we're going to go over what you must know before you write, and then my 7-step process, which is market recon, a pre-copy file, writing the offer, writing the bullets, selecting the architecture, and then writing to template, and then writing the headline, writing the lead, and then the last step, which is editing. And then I'm also going to cover mastery. So like, what are the resources that, when working with the, basically the top copywriters in the world, working for these big companies, what are the stuff that I was recommended, and what were the books I was recommended, what were out of the courses, what were the ones that I found most helpful. So at the end, I'm going to cover, give you some more resources to really kind of take this farther, because again, in this 60, 90 minute that we have here, I'm not going to be able to get 6 years across to you. So here's how we're going to start. I'm going to zoom in for you. So it all starts with what you must know before you write. So the first thing is to really get clear on the definition. So what is copywriting? The best definition for copywriting is simply it is salesmanship in print. So what we are doing here is we are selling. This has nothing to do with writing. When I first got into internet marketing, the last thing I thought I'd ever do is be a writer. I have an engineering background, and I was a C student. I was terrible at English. I was probably one of the worst writers in the entire world. So putting that into perspective, when I found out it had nothing to do with your ability to write, and actually kind of the less trained you are in writing, kind of the better you're going to be, because copywriting is very conversational. Doesn't have to be grammatically correct. It's just write, talk, write. So good copywriting comes from good talking, good selling. So again, that's the important thing to remember is that we are selling. So if you're not a good writer, don't worry. I was a terrible writer. Has really nothing to do, and it's all about write, talk, write. So the battle is won before it's even engaged, and it's really true. Research is going to cure a lot of your sins. So someone who is willing to out research you can beat you, even if they're worse. They know less of the techniques. It's he who knows the market best wins, and it is really true, because the better you know the market, the better you're going to be able to connect with them. And again, that's like more important than the actual, the writing and the techniques. So we're going to want to know really 5 things. We're going to need to know your market. We're going to need to know your product inside and out. We're going to want to know the most likely objections. We're going to know which ways can we prove our case. Proof is really, really important. It's sort of the gold in persuasion. And then we're going to want to know what are the best offers. What are the offers before that have really worked? So know your market. And a lot of you are familiar with the customer avatar, but it's the same kind of thing. What are your prospects' 3 biggest hot buttons? What are their biggest fears? What are their biggest frustrations? So we really want to figure all this out before we write even a word. What is their dream scenario? What does, after they, what are they hoping to accomplish? What do they fantasize about? Next is, what is their nightmare? So what is that? And I look at this as like, what is the heaven they're trying to get to? And the nightmare is, what is the hell they're trying to avoid? Know your product inside and out. So these are also questions that I used when I was a freelancer, which I don't do anymore, but this is something you could ask to the person that you're writing for. But you also want to ask yourself, why did you create the program or product you're selling? What was the reason for creating it? What are the main benefits? So what are those major benefits that whoever buys your product is going to get? What are they going to get after they go through your product? So what does that endpoint look like? They've gone through your product, they've completed it. How is their life? What is the product going to get them? And who is your product for? And almost as importantly, who is your product not for? So know your prospect's most likely objections. So what are your prospect's most likely objections? Really important. We want to list out every single reason why they're not going to buy, because unlike traditional sales where you have a chance to figure out what are their reasons, when we're selling remotely like this, we want to have all of those objections beforehand. So the more objections we could take care of inside of our sales letter, the higher the conversion is going to be. Next is, what is your proof? You got to realize that people online or people getting a direct mail sales letter, they are very skeptical. So proof is really huge. So beforehand, we want to gather brainstorm. What are ways that we could demonstrate this? What are the testimonials, case studies? Can we get it? Is there any third-party data to validate what we're claiming in our sales letter? And then I like to think about, which ways can I educate to sell? What tasty information can I give away? What logical arguments or logical demonstrations can I show that is going to prove the claim that I'm making inside of the sales letter? And then last but not least, I want to know the offer. What are the most appealing offers that others have tested in the marketplace? So that really comes down to figuring out what's working right now. And then I want to know, what are the price points throughout their funnel, but also want to know and relatively have a good guess at what I should be charging for my information. So that is everything before we write. And then we start researching. So step 1, always for me, is I am trying to build what I call a pre-copy file. And I will show you what that is. So I am looking to figure out every single benefit that my product has. I build a fact list, which is, what is every statement or every fact that I could put in my sales letter. I'm looking to build an objection list. I am looking to build as much proof as I can. I am looking for what I call copy devices or codes, which is really copy is written in chunks or like in paragraphs. So they'll normally be like a subhead and then a couple paragraphs below it. And oftentimes it's never the words. It's always what's underneath the words. So what I like to do is I like to beforehand be looking out for commonalities. So when I start doing my research of competitor sales letters, I'm going to try to do basically like what Napoleon Hill did with Think and Grow Rich. What are the commonalities among all these top converting sales letters? So there's like some example code could be what this is not. Maybe all the sales letters have a section or a chunk of copy that says, here's what this is not. This is not, another, diet pill. This is not paleo diet. This is not another low carb diet. This is not, etc. And then if all the sales letters in your market have that, probably want to include that copy code. Another one is like imagine this. So if a bunch of the sales letters are all doing some sort of future pace, which is saying, imagine this. Once you pick up this product, you're going to get all these amazing benefits. You're never going to have to worry about your bills anymore. You're never, you're going to be able to pick family vacations. You're going to be able to tell your boss to shove it. On and on and on. Why this is different. And these are just some example codes that you might find, but you really I have names for them. I catalog them, but really you want to also look for that. And then I create a deal sheet. So I write out exactly what my customer gets when they buy the product, the guarantee, the pricing, the bonus, and then the customer avatar. So when I go into the step 1, which is a market research phase, to build that pre-copy file, the first thing I do is I look at my competition. So I will try to find at least 12 classic controls. And what that means by controls is those are ads or sales letters or video sales letters or webinars that I know have worked extremely well in the marketplace. So in internet marketing, I am going to, and also I'm looking for all time. So not just like the past 5 years, past 6 months. If I'm selling an internet marketing product, I am going to look at which is really, it's business opportunity. It's make money online. I am going to look at all the classic biz op controls, like the lazy man's way to riches. I am going to look at ads from the 1980s that sold really well, 1960s. I am going to go into my swipe files. And this is really where, becoming, I guess this only really comes through time, but the longer you do this, the more you start to become familiar with the classic controls of your industry. I mean, for weight loss, there are classic Gary Halbert weight loss ads. There are in business opportunity, there is classic ads written by TJ Roletter, Joe Carbo, Dan Kennedy's ones that he wrote, the Jeff Paul ad. So what I will do is, and this really comes from just being in the industry and asking people, but you want to try to find those classic advertisements that have worked really well. So I try to find 12 of those, and then I try to find 6 ads that I know are doing well right now. So I'll have my 6 classic ones, my 12 old ones, and then I'm going to try to find out what's working now. So when I go online, I'm going to go to the marketplaces. I'm going to go to places that I can see with real world data what's selling. So ClickBank, you could tell because of the gravity. JVZoo, they give you exactly what was sold, earnings per click. Warrior Plus, same sort of thing. There's other marketplaces as well. There's ClickBetter, ClickSure, all of those marketplaces. Any marketplace that you think your product could be on, even Amazon, sorting by the best sellers of books, eBay too, ePulse. You basically want to find sites like that marketplaces that are showing their data, so you can now figure out what's selling now. Pretty simple. Same thing for I will do is this is something that not everyone's going to do, but you want to find out what are the major players in your industry and are they using direct mail and magazines. So I know in the business opportunity niche that the bigger players, they are advertising in Success Magazine. People like Brendan Bouchard have advertisements in there. So I want to see how he's writing his copy. If for investment financing, when I've done stuff in the foreign exchange niche, I will look at Agora. I will look at that giant, I think they do around 400 million in sales a year, and they use direct mail. So what I did is I bought all of the, a few of the newsletters to get on the mailing list, and now I get the direct mail packages written by some of the best people in the world, and I've literally taken that copy, identified the commonalities between what's working online, and that's my code that I come into now writing the sales letter for in the Forex industry, and it's top converting copy. I'm simply modeling what's working, but that's the idea. We want to figure out what's working so we can model it. Then what I'll normally do is I'll go into Amazon.com. I will look at all the 1-star and 5-star reviews. Reason is you're going to find the polarity, and this is what I learned from Jay Abraham. You're going to look at the 5-star reviews, which are going to be raving about what the product is, and look at what they're saying is it's good about the product, so you could include that in there. And then look at the 1-star reviews. They're going to tell you what's missing, what they didn't like. You're going to find objections in there. Again, really important when you're going through these ads here. Let's see if this both opens up. Nope. The benefit, fact, objection, proof, copy device, and deal sheet. What I actually do is when I'm going through here, I am building when I'm going through the 12 classic controls and the 6 ads online, what I am doing is every time in the sales letter that there's a benefit, I'll write it down. Anytime there is a fact, like some sort of proof, like I'm going to write it down. Anytime they're addressing an objection, I'm going to write it down. Anytime there is a code or a chunk, I'm going to mark that chunk. And I'm just going to go through all those sales letters and start building this pre-copy file to now have a giant pre-copy file so that I have all this raw data. So when I sit down and write, I'm not writing from a blank canvas, and I have all the raw stuff that I need to assemble inside the sales letter. So same thing, when I'm going through Amazon, I'm going to write down, maybe they say that there was a benefit they really liked. It's going to go on the benefit sheet. There's a fact is they didn't like X, Y, and Z. There could be objections. Same thing. I'm going to go to the forum and I'm going to look and, again, fill in the stuff. The customer avatar, the deal sheet, interviews. I'm going to talk to people. Surveys are kind of optional. And then really one of the best ways to do market recon is to talk with people on the phone. And talk to people at events and just ask them, what's frustrating you, what's stopping you, and you're going to find really kind of gold for your sales letter. So the more that you can immerse yourself in the marketplace, kind of these are like these last things, like the forums, the interviews, the surveys, strategy sessions, being on other people's lists. I have a separate account where I'm on every single person's list in whatever market at the time I was writing copy. And so when I was writing copy in the weight loss market, I was on every single, weight loss list, seeing what are the subject lines, what are they all promoting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So after your market recon, you're going to build that pre-copy file. And that's actually going to be built through all of that research. And then you're on to step 3. So by this time, you should have that pre-copy file. You should have done, your market research. And then I start with writing the offer. And a lot of writers do this same thing. A lot of great copywriters start with the offer because it really gives you a place to aim. So you're starting with you're beginning with the end in mind. And I love this quote by Gary Halbert. He says, strong copy may overcome a weak offer, but in many cases, strong copy will succeed in spite of weak copy written by marketing morons. Also, what you have to say is enormously more important than how you say it. So Gary always likes to tell the story of, if you had a wife and she had twins, there is no way to not make that message. There's no way you couldn't make that message exciting, because what you have to say is more important than how you say it. If I had a message telling you that you won the lottery, again, the what you have to say is more important than, you could write it on a crayon. It could be written in the worst English ever. Again, that's why it's not about the writing, and people are going to be interested. So really the offer is, especially as information marketers, where we have the most leverage, because we can really craft the strongest offer possible. And if you've done the market recon and now those 12 classic ads, the 6 contemporary offers that are smoking butt, you kind of have a good feel for now for like what we need to have in our offer for our similar products. So I like to write down first, what is it? What am I to give them? Am I to give them ebooks, videos, the product components, and then, what's in it? So like, what are they actually going to learn? So I'll start jotting down, and, if you've seen the product creation, the product creation stuff, it's like from point A to point B, what are all those steps they're going to have to do for what I'm teaching? And then I'm going to break it up usually into modules to increase that perceived value. And then every component, depending on whether it's a low ticket, mid ticket, or a coaching program, let's say we're doing a low ticket product. Maybe, possibly it's going to be, 4 videos and 2 bonus things. And every single video, I'm going to now give that benefit language. So every single component, it's going to turn into benefit language. So, instead of saying module 1, market selection, it's going to be how to pick a slam dunk niche every time. Instead of it being how to write sales copy, it's going to be my 6-figure sales letter formula. Everything's going to have that benefit and raise that perceived value in that offer. So we got bonuses, guarantee, and the price. So again, a lot of this, like a guarantee, what are other people in the industry guaranteeing? What are the best guarantees that have worked in the past? Normally it's 100% guarantee, but you could get even more creative and do, double your money back and all that kind of stuff. Also, we got the price. So you're going to know from the other offers that have worked, what prices have worked the best. So after I finish my offer, then I go into writing the bullets. So I will usually write between 50 to 100 bullets. And usually the way I do it is I'll write the offer, and then I will have the components laid out, and I will just start to write, module, like say module 1 is how to pick a slam dunk niche market. I'm going to write 3 or 4 bullets describing what they're going to learn in that video. Module 1 is, module 2 might be, if it's a fitness product, might be nutritional secrets, right? How to XYZ so that you can lose weight fast and easily without starving yourself, right? And then I'm going to start writing bullets for what is taught inside of that. So usually I'll do how-to bullets. So a formula that I use is how to so you can. So how to eat, how to pick a slam dunk niche every time so you can be sure that you're always on the money. That's kind of bad. I'm doing it off the top of my head, but it always going to be like how to write sales copy that converts. So you can, dominate your marketplace, how to write 6-figure sales copy so you can dominate any market you choose, even if you're just starting out. And again, you're just basically going to start writing bullets like that. After that, you're going to go into, here's everything my product does. This is really how I kind of pull the bullets out again, you're going to have that benefit sheet from the pre-copy file, and you're just going to twist those benefits. That's really kind of the way that I do it. So I just have my list of benefits, and I start taking from that benefit sheet and including all those benefits in my bullets. And really, it comes down to this. Here's a process for getting out bullets. I'm going to write, here's everything my product does. Here's how that will transform your life. Here's what will happen when your life's transformed. And that's a way to pull out bullets and get them deeper, which is really what you want. And that's what that So You Can does. So it's like how you can, here's what my product does, teaches you how to write sales copy, how to write 6-figure sales copy, how it will transform your life. So you can dominate any marketplace, even if you're just starting out. So that's pretty much it for bullets. Great resource. Probably the best resource for writing bullets is a newsletter written by Gary Halbert, which it's called How to Do the Twist. So if you type in Gary Halbert, How to Do the Twist, you're really going to find probably the best education on writing bullets you can find, and it's free. So it's called Gary Halbert, How to Do the Twist. So after I have my bullets, I have my offer, I got my pre-copy file. What I will do then is I go to step 5, which is I select the architecture. So I select the template that I want to write to for the rest of my sales copy. And really, rule number 1 is copy is not written, it is assembled. So this is something that I picked up from studying the great Gene Schwartz. So Gene Schwartz is known as like literally the best, I think pound for pound, like the best copywriter ever. The guy had lived on Park Avenue in New York City. I think he sold over $1 billion worth of stuff, like something insane. But there's a speech that he does at Rodale, which Rodale is the company that owns Men's Health and Men's Fitness, and I don't know if they own Bottom Line. I think Bottom Line's a different company. But he said, rule number 1 is copy is not written, it is assembled. He said, you are assembling desires. You are assembling, little city for your prospect to live in. And when I heard that, it just made sense. We have this pre-copy file, and now we are going to assemble it into a sales letter. And what I like to do is just create a real logical outline. So what I'll do is I'll create a skeleton. And usually my skeleton will come off of a template. So I've used Perry Belcher's 21-step sales letter template. Clayton Makepeace has a template. David Frey has a template. And then, of course, there's my 6-figure template, which is really finding, you could take any sales letter and turn it into a template once you look at the code behind it. And that's really what I did with mine, is all the sales letters that were working well in the internet marketing space, which is the sales letter that you guys are getting, I sort of templatized it. And you can do that with anything. So you could even make your own template. So what I'll do is, select or create a template, and then it's simply a matter of filling in the template. So once that template is, you have it ready to go, it's, setting your timer for 33 minutes or 50 minutes or whatever, and writing fast and furiously. And a big mistake that I made when I was first starting out, which is I try to write and rewrite at the same time. Don't want to do that. You really just kind of want to take that template and start cranking out. Really just, it's a 2-step process. So it's actually more. So you got your bullets, you got your offers, and now you just start writing like crazy. Start dumping all of that stuff into your sales, into that template, and just brain dumping, getting everything out of your head. And this is a big thing. So dumping everything out of your head. And I think a big misconception is that great copy is written from front to back. So I see when I teach people this, they start at the very, very beginning, with the pre-head, and then they're going to write the headline, then they're going to write the subhead, and then they're just going to write this letter. When, again, that's writing, we're assembling. So really it's there's someone I'm good friends with. He calls it he worked for Agora, which is one of the biggest companies. They train the best copywriters in the world, and he calls it Frankenstein style copywriting, which is really like you're writing all these chunks and then you're patching them together. And that's what I found for me. That's what works the best. So I actually, like I said, I write the offer first. I'll write the guarantee. I'll start writing out different chunks based off of the code. I'll write the bullets, and I write them in 33-minute sessions. So I will, I'll hit the timer, 33 minutes, turn off all distractions, and I will just write fast and furiously. I'm just going to knock out bullets. Maybe I'll do a 30-minute session of just knocking down headlines. Maybe I'll do a 30-minute session of writing the close at the end. But whatever I feel is easiest, that's what I'm going to write. I'm not going to sit there and try to figure out the perfect headline or whatever, or lead. And actually, that's what comes next. So after I've done that, and again, I said money is made in editing, which is so true, I'm going to start crafting a headline and lead. So once I've kind of written everything out, I've dumped everything out, I got all these hunks all over the place. What I'm going to do is usually, and I'll be really, let me just fix that. I'll be really kind of frank with you. I have a shoebox, and I learned this from Scott Haynes, who was mentored by Gary Halbert. I have a shoebox of headlines. There's a good, Vic Schwab's book has 100 headlines. So I have a whole basically shoebox 3x5 cards of headlines, and I will start shuffling through the cards, and then based off of that, I'm going to start writing headlines. So I'm going to write headlines off of that. I'm also going to have the 12 sales letters up, those 12 classic sales letters up. I'm going to have the 6 ones, at least 6 that are working now, and I'm just going to start writing headlines, writing leads. Also, my bullets, I'm going to look at what are my better bullets. Jeff Paul, I picked this up from him. He said, oftentimes your headline will be your best bullet. So I'm going to look at all the bullets I wrote, and if it's really kind of that biggest, boldest benefit of solving that main problem, I cover it in a bullet. I might just pull that and make that my headline. So there's really there's no art and science to creating a great headline. It's sort of just dumping a bunch out, and then I will rework them. And that's really, so now we got the headline. I might write 1 or 2 leads. Often I'll just write 1. If I'm writing the template, I just kind of make a decision and say, here's how I'm going to start the ad based off of the way this other guy started the ad. Then I move into step 7, which is really the art of copywriting is editing. So I will start to edit my copy. So I will start to, okay, I got these 2 sections. Let me stitch these together. I will read it out loud. I will start. It's just a process of editing. You're putting it together into that template. You're ironing pieces out, stuff that doesn't make sense. You're going to remove. You're going to do the so what test, and the BS test. So I'm going to read it, and if I can say so what, then I'm going to switch that. BS is anytime I make a claim and I think I could say BS, being the reader, putting that real skeptic hat on, I'm going to know I'm going to either drop that claim, have more candor with it. Instead of saying, this is, a guaranteed system to make you 100,000, I might say, this possibly, this may be the most potent system to earn $100 a day. I'm going to back off that claim so it doesn't raise, it will pass that BS test. And also every claim, I'm going to want proof at the end of it. So I'm really looking to add proof in. Agora, they have the best writers in the world working for them. They use this system, which, again, my buddy who works for them taught me, which is the Cub system, which they will give it to someone else. And this is what I'll do when I'll have someone look it over. I usually try to get a critique from someone I know. But if not, I will give it to a buddy and say, I want you to mark anywhere in the passage where you're confused with a C, anywhere it's unbelievable with a U, or anywhere where it's boring with a B. So if it's confusing, mark that passage with a C. If it's unbelievable, if you don't believe the claim, mark with a U. If it's boring, mark with a B. So I will give that, and that's sort of their system for critiquing the copy. So that is the so what and the BS test. The unbelievable is the BS test, and the so what is, if they're confused, it's kind of like, okay, what's going on? Or if it's boring, that's going to be like, oh, so what? So I'll do that, and then again, to be completely frank, I don't do that every time. I literally just write the thing, but I think that's a great system to use if you have the time. And then the Bencivenga score. So Bencivenga, greatest, I guess, living copywriter right now. He gives his sales letters a score through this, which is, he marks it and I don't want to give away his entire system because he goes over this in his $5,000 course. But it's his urgent problem, unique solution, unquestionable proof, user-friendly proposition, user-friendly offer. So I will just look at mine, like, is there a problem? Am I clearly solving a problem? That's good. Like, if not, kind of know if you can't see right off the bat that you're solving a problem, like, copy probably not going to do too well. Is an urgent problem. Again, the more urgent it is, the better your copy is going to work. Is there a solution in it? Like, is there a solution, a visible solution from looking at it right away? Like, am I going to have a solution to that problem? And then is it a unique solution? Again, the more unique it is, the better your copy is going to work. Then I'll look, is there proof in it? Then is there unquestionable proof? Then I'll look at the offer. Is it a user-friendly offer? Like, is it an offer that they could easily take advantage of? And I will just kind of use that. Again, he uses like a system where it's like he gives 10 points if it has a problem, and then another 15 if it's an urgent problem, 10 points if there's a solution, another 15, 10 points if there's proof, 15 points if there's unquestionable proof, 10 points if there's a good offer, 15 points if it's user-friendly. And then he has a couple other things he adds to it, but he gets it from basically a grading system where it's like, if it's over a 90, he knows it's going to do really well. If it's over 80, it's going to do pretty well. And then he's just trying to get the top score based off how many points. And then sometimes, usually after I give myself the Bencivenga score, I read it out loud. I'm usually good to go and give it to the graphic designer, or a lot of times I just do the graphics myself. Sometimes I have a checklist by Jeff Paul, which is really good. And I will just sort of read over my copy and use his checklist. So I'm sure you could Google it. It's called Jeff Paul's Killer Copywriting Checklist. He did a really good job with that. So I will use that to now kind of check off, okay, like he has all these kind of acid tests, like, is there a guarantee, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, as you go through it. So I know a lot of good copywriters that do use that checklist, which is smart. But I'll be frank, I don't use it every single time. Okay, so that's how you edit it, and that's the whole copywriting process. In the next video, I'm going to actually show you an example of a pre-copy file, kind of what that looks like, what one of mine looks like, so you have more mass and reality on what that looks like. I'm going to show you, and then I'm going to walk you through my template, basically what my six-figure sales letter template looks like, and give you some more advice in that. But what I want to do before I wrap this video up is go over mastery. So this is a skill set. The better you could get at this is not something, by going through this process, you're going to get pretty good in the next 15 to 30 days. But really, this is such a valuable skill in marketing that I would invite you to try to master this skill. So a couple ways. And the first way is basically how to cheat your way to mastery, which is what I did, which is there's a big difference between activity knowledge and know-how. Like what you're getting right now is activity knowledge. Activity knowledge is the how-to, the theory, and all that kind of stuff. Know-how is what you have from actual experience, what you have ingrained in your habitual patterns, your neurology, your physiology, like what is, and you can only get know-how by experience. Know-how is like one of the best ways to test is, and this is actually like a really good distinction, is do I know it or do I live it? You know, are you living it or do you just know it? And if you just know it, that's activity knowledge. If you're living it, that's know-how. And again, know-how, you can't buy it in a book. You can't get it from a course. You can only get it from actually doing it. You know, you could go to a seminar on how to ride a bike, but unless you actually get on a bike, you can't learn how to ride a bike. Yeah, there is a famous book, You Can't Learn How to Ride a Bike at the Seminar, and that was basically that distinction he was trying to make, is there's a difference between activity knowledge and know-how. So one of the ways that you could cheat to get know-how is simply by copying proven sales letters in your own handwriting. And this is something that I was first turned on by my copywriting mentor, Dan Gallipo, and he was turned on to this by Gary Halbert. Gary Halbert, this is something that he had all of his proteges do. Basically, find proven sales letters with a legal pad and ballpoint pen and copy them out by hand. And I will tell you, this works. It really does. Like, you start writing out this, you will start to pick up the vocabulary, you will start to pick up the rhythm, you will start to pick up all things in copywriting that you can't pick up by just reading a sales letter or looking at a sales letter. You can't learn it by merely observing. So by doing this, you're actually going to start to kind of cheat your way to getting know-how without having to. You're doing it on the practice field. So last piece of advice. So what I would do, what I did starting out is I went a little overboard. I have a 20-20-20-20 daily routine that I'm going to recommend, but mine was more like I would spend 50 minutes writing sales letters out by hand, and really be careful who you copy. So I would only do Gary Halbert, Dan Kennedy, John Carlton, or Gary Bencivenga, or Gene Schwartz. Or if it was some like letter that was just a classic, like Joe Carbill's Lazy Man's Way to Riches. And I would literally sit there, and I know a lot of the best copywriters, like pretty much all of, in any market, all the best people have done this. It's almost strange when you find out and you talk to them. The ones that are doing extremely well, they have all done this, and it's like amazing. It really is. So I used to literally sit there 50 minutes. I know Ben Settle's done this. Caleb Osborne, Dan Kennedy's done this. Trying to think. Dan, my mentor who learned from Gary, was one of the best fitness supplement copywriters. I know he still does this. He does 33 minutes in the morning of copying proven sales letters out by hand. I used to do this for 50 minutes, take these sales letters and write them out by hand. I have literally stacks in my room, now in my office, of all of these sales letters that I've copied out by hand. And again, that is the way you learn. That is the way you get really, really good. And then here's what I recommend. 20-20 daily routine. So 20 minutes to read the classics. And I'm going to show you what those are. The ones that I was recommended, the ones that I found are really good. 20 minutes, read an ad a day. This is something I picked up from Gary Bencivenga. He calls it his ad a day program. Again, I don't do this all the time anymore. But when I was getting good, I did. 20 minutes copy an ad by longhand. So, and then 20 minutes writing your own message. So that was the routine that I did when I was starting out. Again, I was working for one of the top copywriters in the real estate space, Francis Ablola. And that was sort of my daily routine. I was writing email copy and sales letters for his business at the time, which is really, we were writing for a lot of the how to get rich in real estate guys. He had so many clients that I couldn't even keep track. He's a machine, but I was helping him with that, and that was really my daily routine. I'd wake up, I would copying out an ad by hand, and then I'd start working and writing for him. And then I would at night spend, mine was more like 50. 50 minutes at night, I would read the classic books. So, which are, here they are. And I really consider these required readings. You got How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Great book. Just one of the classics on salesmanship. Scientific Advertising by Claude Hopkins. This book was, it's like written in the 1920s, but it's amazing. Ogilvy on Advertising by David Ogilvy. Another fantastic book. Breakthrough Advertising by Eugene Schwartz. This is probably the toughest one of the bunch. Ultimate Sales Letter by Dan Kennedy might be what I'd recommend you read first. Really, really, really good book on how to write sales copy. Bensavenga Bullets. Those are all of Gary Bensavenga's free newsletters. You can just Google those. Those are incredible. The Robert Collier Letter Book. Again, another great book. Tested Advertising by John Capel is one of my favorites. Inside there, you're going to find all of his headline formulas, which I still use. And then all the Gary Halbert letters. These are at thegaryhalbertletter.com. I'd recommend printing them out. I've printed out a bunch of them, gone through it, yellow highlighter in hand. And actually, just with Gary Halbert's letters alone, you can become really, really, really good. So those kind of the required reading. And I mean, if you want to get good, if you want to be a master, this is the kind of stuff that you need to be doing. Now, the resources. If you can, I know a lot of these are super expensive, but Gary Bensavenga's 100 seminar, really the best seminar on copywriting, best home study course. I think it's still $5,000, but again, worth every single penny. This is like the Rolls Royce. Gary is the top living copywriter, and in this he goes over his entire, basically everything that he knows, which it's a 2-day seminar. I found it amazing. Highly recommend it. Scott Haynes Shortcut Copywriting course. When I first started working with Francis, this was really the recommended resource he gave for me, which Scott worked for Gary, mentored under Gary Halbert. And a lot of it is just exercises like copying bullets out by hand, copying out all these headlines by hand. And that's how you go through the course. So the course is really a course that has you copy out bullets by hand, copy out headlines by hand. And again, I did all the exercises in that course, which again, I think paid off in spades. John Benson's 3X VSL course, really outstanding. For even text-based sales letters, email, John just knows what he's doing. And then Matt Furie's email copywriting course, fantastic. A lot of key distinctions I learned in there, which I even use for everything, whether it's, on webinars, it's not just email. You could take the stuff he's teaching with email and write really high converting, long form sales letters, because copywriting is copywriting. So that is what I have for you. That is the process. So here's what we're going to do in the next video. I'm going to hop in. I'm going to show you some examples of my pre-copy file. And then from there, I'm going to walk you through my 6-figure sales copy template. It's been responsible for, I don't know. Might be coming on $1 million. Could be. Not sure. I know it's way over. It's definitely way over to the 6-figure mark. But we're going to walk you through, I'm going to walk you through that sales copy so that you can just, when you do your research, use that as the architecture for following this process I just outlined for creating your own sales copy that works. So with that said, I enjoyed making this video. Really hope you enjoyed this. Again, I'd watch this a couple times if you can, but this is the process. This is A to Z, kind of how it's done. So hopefully that's clarified a few things for you, and we'll catch you in the next video.